Okay, everybody, this is my spoiler review of Smoke Episode 4, Strawberry. Before I jump into my review, make sure to subscribe and please follow me at Steve Varley Show on Instagram. It will help in so many ways. I also did an interview recently with Jurnee Smollett of Smoke, so make sure to check that out. That will be linked in the comments below. It was a really fun time. So jumping into this episode, we get another definition from the dictionary. This time it's transmogrification, and this is an interesting definition because it's to change or alter greatly and often with grotesque or humorous effect. So we see that here with Freddy in the episode clearly, where he wants to shave his face and completely disappear. And not only is it in appearance, but also in his mind and how different he is now, how negative he is from that hope we saw him starting to build. Where this can also apply to his Dave, but this has always been Dave deep down. We're just seeing the change now. This episode, we really get to see the mask off of Dave. So we see that change in him from the viewer perspective, even though he's always been that way deep down. So we know that Dave is this arsonist, and we know that Michelle is onto him. So having an episode open where Dave is doing a presentation for the firemen and in front of Michelle as well about how to plan before the chaos and understanding fire and the people who set them. So of course, the guy who sets fires is giving this presentation, probably the best advice you can get. And he's talking about planning before the chaos and accepting the chaos because it's still never going to be enough to plan for it. And this is in front of Michelle. So the way he's talking about it are all ways that Michelle is more and more, you can tell, believing that he is one of the arsonists. Now, speaking of Michelle, we see she meets with her brother, who is just involved with cockfighting, and he gave up the booze after being a huge a-hole the last time we saw him and grabbing her. And we still see, though, he is more forgiving towards the mother, and she says because he hasn't had her memories. So we know there's these memories of trauma with her mother we've been teased about with her that she's alluding to. But the big thing here actually is not them making up. It's actually Michelle seeing the bird tags on the chickens. And that gives her the idea to use those in the shopping bag, something more affordable. As she tells Harvey, they're only 6 cents, and this is how they're going to track Milk Jug. Now, Dave and Michelle have a drink together, which is the best scene of the episode. And this is when Dave opens up to her that he had 2 wives prior. So it also explains probably why he struggles in his relationships, because he just has no self-control over his loyalty to his wife, because we already see that with him coming on to Michelle in this episode. And she shares to him how messed up her current relationship is. So this is also someone Dave probably sees could be a possibility of someone who's down with doing something that may be more naughty like this and against the status quo. But the big moment is he'll open up about his mom abandoning him at 15. Like I'd mentioned, he had already written his character in his story about this and mentioned his mom leaving him at a young age. So now we're getting to hear the full story, and that she went to date a younger man because she deserved a fresh start. So this also explains why he's probably more open to cheating and not actually believing in some sense of loyalty. And he's like, I could have played the victim of my life. He's like, I pretended the B word was dead, rotting in that ditch. So we're starting to see really, like I'm talking about, the mask coming off of Dave here. And it also explains why he has really no empathy for his stepson about his father abandoning him, and that he says he should man up later in the episode. So Dave will try to connect at some point with his stepson and says, you got to help me with this. I'm more of a handbook guy. And the wife likes this and tells him, pick up him for practice today, which Dave is clearly not going to do. But we see that Dave will tell Michelle to have a good weekend because he is going to an arson investigator conference. And Michelle's like, oh, I want to come. And then he goes, I got a suite. So it's like, oh boy. So he's broken that line now that was never broken yet in the show between them. And that he's opening that idea up to Michelle. And Taron plays this so eerie. Even the way after she rejects him and puts it off, that he looks at her with that mischievous look. Really, really well done. And it makes this character of Dave so fascinating. And what I like they did about this was Dave was motivated by this interaction with Michelle and his feelings for her in this episode to go write in his book, and why he was so intently into his book that he's missing these texts about getting his stepson. And that's why you'll see later his stepson will go on, I guess, his unlocked computer and his not hidden well story with very revealing information, which is really silly. But the stepson sees in the book the characters talking about Jacqueline's body did things to a man and how he's a superhero, but he's still a man. So this is him writing down those feelings he is feeling in that day. Now, speaking of his stepson, Michelle will offer to drive him home. And you see the ulterior motive here is she wants to just see info about what she learned is Ezra Esposito, Dave's former partner, that his file is basically sealed and closed. So it's sketchy already. But what she does get out of the stepson when she brings him up is that nobody knows Dave. So she's seeing that this guy is very mysterious to everybody. So when Michelle sees Harvey at the bar, he's like, Esposito literally shot himself in the foot, wanted to sue. So I'm guessing this character has to be John Leguizamo because he still isn't in the show yet. He was in the trailer. So there's only one more big character left that they're talking about here at this point. We're almost halfway through. I think we are halfway through. So it's got to be him, and I hope we see him next episode. I'm assuming we do. But he says the big thing that Esposito is convinced Dave was an arsonist. So this is going to light, no pun intended, a fire in Michelle, obviously. And here we go. Like, this is the biggest evidence she's gotten that she's not crazy about her instinct about that. Now, Dave will get an earful from his wife about not picking up his stepson. And like I said, he doesn't respond well to this. He doesn't see it the way she does. And she's saying, this is a boy who was abandoned by his real father, and now you're abandoning him. And he thinks that's just an exaggeration of the word because of obviously what he went through. But she has the funny farm moment, which I love, where she basically tells him his book sucks. It was silly, though. She had to throw in the line, like, I'm also a librarian. I know these things. They probably could have left that line out. But I love she says, F your fake glasses. And what does this do? It gets him in that rage mode again. And it's going to trigger him to want to light some stuff on fire, light some chips on fire. And he's looking at those chips. But he's distracted this time. And there's a woman there who eyes him in the grocery store. So we see this Dave that is very open to cheating on his wife, and he changed this woman to her bed, and he shows her what streaking is, which I didn't know what that was, so I look it up, and it's in the category of temperature play, and you light someone's stomach on fire before it starts to burn, and she ends up being into it, and that's how the episode ends. But it's a short episode. It's only 40 minutes, which was a little disappointing, but I still liked it. I think I'm very intrigued with what's going on with Dave and Michelle. I like that Michelle's catching on to him. I like this tease. What I think is John Leguizamo's character in Esposito. So I think putting him in the mix with Taron Egerton and Jurnee Smollett could be really fun, especially if he's an aggressive character towards Dave. It'll probably get the plot moving a little quicker too. I do think there's some silly things here, like the son finding these important details in the book and looking into it without everything being covered and locked. And that line about the wife being also a librarian was really silly. But really like that stuff going on so far. But before I get my full score, let's go to everything that goes on with Freddy. Not much going on, but he's not getting the email he wanted for that job. So he's going from a hopeful person now, that change that Brenda was putting into him. And that's who he goes back to when he wants it reversed. He wants her to take his hair away and people not to see him, and we'll see he shaves his head and his beard, and that's why he's got the cut marks. And it's sad because you see Brenda was waiting for him all the way to 6 o'clock. She wanted him to come back at 5. He never did. You can see she's worried, but he's filling up the milk jug, putting it in a saved black bag. So if he's had a bunch left over, I don't think they're going to tag him for a while. And it's in a closet filled with a bunch of these milk jugs. So is he saving up for a huge fire? It's going to go big. It might be to take down a chicken shop, but I really think he might be going for the guy who interviewed him, who we saw had the happy family in that photo, and that photo had a big purpose of him seeing that clearly, and I think that's obviously a type of victim he'd go for. So I think that's what's coming, but it brings more interesting stuff for Freddy and where he's going to go next. So overall, I'm going to give this episode an 8.2. Enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying this show. I think some people are being a little hard on it, and it's kind of weird to me. I don't know why, but I think it's good and enjoyable compared to other stuff that's been coming out of late. So I'm excited for where it's going to go each week, and I'm in. So let me know your thoughts below, your theories, anything you have to say. Please check out my interview with Jurnee Smollett. It's a really fun time. She is awesome. And please, again, subscribe here and follow me on Instagram at Steve R Show and help in so many ways. I'll see you next week.